Hey guys, it's Andy coming at you here on Monday, October 24th, 2022. Rainy day here in Oklahoma City. Just thought I would hop on here, give some weekly sports card and sports thoughts and opinions, I guess you might say. So I did go to the Oklahoma City Thunder home opener last night. Fun game, played the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, he is pretty incredible, I must say. They did pull away from us at the end. We kept it competitive for a little while, but no Shea, Gilgis Alexander, of course, no Chet Holmgren. He's out for the season. No Jalen Williams, our number 12 overall pick. So we were shorthanded. It's probably going to be a long season, but it was a fun environment. Good to be back inside the Paycom Center. So one of the things I did notice, and this will apply to sports cards. So when I go to these games, I will generally park. It's probably a little over a mile away from the Paycom Center. There's some free parking, and quite honestly, when the weather's nice, I kind of enjoy the walk to get to the arena. So I'm walking behind a couple of ladies, and they're having a conversation, and I'm just kind of overhearing bits and pieces. But I hear this lady, and she's talking about how disappointed she was a few years back that the Thunder had traded away Steven Adams. And I'm listening to her talk with such passion and fandom for Steven Adams. And once I get inside and the arena, and I hear different conversations going on around me, there's a little bit of a theme, and this happens with fans all across the league and all the different sports. You hear people talking about players that might not necessarily be the biggest household names, but these players, they still have very passionate fans. So I started thinking, this group of people, the people that go to all of these different sporting events, they're huge fans of players, teams, and like I said, not even necessarily the most household names. These people are way underrepresented in the hobby. So hopefully Fanatics will try to address this situation, and I would assume that they would, because you see a trend, and this has been going on for a while, but seems like it's even more prevalent now than it probably ever has been, at least during the time period that I've collected sports cards, which is 30 plus years. You see this trend of people just super hyper focused on only collecting, like, the two or three best players from each sport. And if you look around, like I said, if you look around at the people that are actually paying money to go to these games, these other players, they have fan bases. And I just feel like there should be people collecting these guys, right? Now, I have a theory on why that isn't happening in the present environment. And I think it's because, as a hobby, we really send a lot of mixed messages out to people that are either new to the hobby or people that are thinking about getting in the hobby. One of the things that we tell them when they're asking for tips, advice, like, what should I collect? Who should I collect? All this stuff. It seems like one of the most common answers is, collect what you like, collect the players you love, right? Like, everyone says that. But do we really mean it? Because we will tell them this, and then somebody will go out and make a video talking about, well, you should really only be focusing on these players because those guys, they're not going to retain any value. You're just wasting money if you're buying those guys. So, which is it? Do we want people to collect what they like and what they love? Or do we want them to just buy the same two or three players that everyone else is buying? And I see this a lot on Instagram where you'll see people that have these incredible collections of this really great player, regardless of what sport it is. It happens in all sports. I see this. And you know that this person is not really a big fan of that player. So it kind of goes back to the original idea of collecting who you like and who you love. Like we're telling people to do that, but then they look at the people that have been in this for a long time and that's not what they're doing. So there's just a lot of confusion. And although there may not be a lot of collectors out there for, let's just call them like the fan favorites on each team, because every team has like these fan favorites. May not be the biggest household name, but for whatever reason the fan base just really loves them, right? Why can't there be a better collector base for these type of players? I think there can be, and I think that's definitely something that I hope starts to change over time. I see it a little bit now where there's people out there that are starting to collect these less household names, and I've really enjoyed seeing that, and I hope it's something that continues, and I think it's something that it would really benefit the hobby, because there's just no reason that everyone should be just super hyper focused on these top guys. And I think people in this hobby have become so infatuated with money. And I think that's people have gotten lost, I think, as far as like why they're actually doing what they're doing. They're just kind of off course a little bit, and they're collecting in ways that they typically wouldn't do. But I think there's just so much noise out there around certain players that people, they just don't want to feel left out. They want to feel like they're a part of that group. And you know, I just kind of I think more people need to encourage people to really collect what they like and not just say it just because that's the right thing to say, but actually encourage it. Don't tell them to do it and then say, well, that's dumb. Another thing that's been a little bit of a hot topic recently is card shows. Like I've seen so much content and discussion about card shows. It's, are card shows dying? Is it still worth it to go to card shows? Attendance, all this. There's all this talk. So I'll be going to the Dallas card show. I think it starts on November 3rd. And, I'm always looking forward to that, because to me, it's not just about like how many people are there, what are the prices, all this stuff. Like, I mean, of course it's a card show, because so those things do matter. But at the same time, like to me, it's an experience. it's an experience that you can't get online. You can't get that on eBay. You can't get that on any of these other selling platforms. The face-to-face interactions, the seeing your friends, just the total social interaction that goes along with a card show. There's so much more to it than just the cards and the prices. And I think that people have become really hyper focused on that. And you get these talking points that get put out there, and these type of things, they start to gain a little bit of traction. So then everybody wants to pile on a little bit and jump on that bandwagon. They're like, oh, this is, this topic's getting some buzz, so let me get in on this. And the big thing I hear is like, oh, dealers, they're just everything's too high, they're priced at 2020 prices and all this stuff. And I mean, I'm sure some of them might be grossly overpriced, but not all of them are. And I don't think it's really fair to all the people out there that do have their stuff priced appropriately. And to me, that's another thing too, like appropriately. Like we always talk about like, oh, well, they're way above the market price, right? Well, let's think about this for a minute. Let's say a card of a really hot player has been trending at around $20, right? And this guy just goes on a absolute tear, regardless of what sport, just whatever sport. He just goes on a tear, right? Now, everybody wants to go buy that player's cards for what the price has been, right? $20. Well, how does the price ever go up if people only charge what the last, because people want to go by the comps. Like if everybody's going by the last comp, how does the price actually go up on a card? The only way that a price on a card actually goes up is if somebody pays that price, right? And how's anybody going to ever pay that price if nobody has it priced higher than what it previously was? Now, I understand that I'm making a point here, and this is not the only thing that's going on at these shows, but I do think that that's something that people never really think about, is if everybody priced their stuff at what the last one sold for, the price would be the same forever. It would literally never change. So keep that in mind whenever you're at a card show and you're trying to buy like whoever the hottest player in that sport is at the time, and you're like trying to convince the dealer, oh, well, this one sold 2 weeks ago for this, so that's what I should pay, even though this guy's been on an absolute tear. That's something that I really always struggled with, this whole comp thing, about how everybody feels like, and I'm not saying everybody, but I mean there are a lot of people. I hear this a lot, where a lot of people, they just seem like, well, this card has sold for this much, so that's what I should get it for every time. And that's just not really how a market really works. And like if it's and another thing is like if it's a super rare card or something, and like I guess I'm not really talking about like the super common stuff. Like I'm not only talking about super rare stuff, but I'm not talking about more of the what people would call like the commodity type cards, like the ones where there's just an abundance of them, like you can pick them up at any time. Like those are not typically the cards that a lot of people would go to a show to buy anyway. But if you come across a card, and let's say you haven't seen that card show up on eBay or at any online auction for, let's say 6 months or longer, because in some cases, like, I mean, I know people that are chasing cards that they haven't seen one in like 2 years. And these are not like super expensive cards. But like, let's say you're at a show and you see a card like that, you haven't seen it in 6 months. And the last one sold for like $50. And this guy has his priced at 70. Are you not just gonna like pay that? If it's something that you really truly want for your collection? Because if you're not, I have to really question how much you really want that card. Because we don't know when the next one will show up. So to me, it just kind of boils down to, do you want the card or not? And if you really truly want that card for your collection, sometimes you're going to have to pay a little bit more than the last guy did. That's just the way it goes. That's just my thoughts. I could be wrong. I often am. But I just find it interesting that there's all this, you know, and you see this a lot in different areas of life or different markets. Like when prices start to go down a little bit on things, people tend to be a little bit more negative and obviously pessimistic. And if you have a collection that was valued at such and such 3 months ago and it's down 25%, people are a little bit upset. They're a little bit, disappointed, and that's natural. I get it. All right, guys. That's all I have for today. If you made it this far, thanks for listening, and I will catch you on the next one.